What happened? Got too much compassion, I guess. Everybody got compassioned out. So, part 3 on the topic of compassion. And this is going to be very nice, very sweet. Compassion of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The main feature of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's compassion, of course, is the congregational chanting of the holy name, giving to the world the Yuga Dharma, the means of achieving spiritual perfection. Very beautiful painting, Bengali style painting with tears in his eyes, his arms raised, chanting the holy name. We'll begin by offering our standard obeisances to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We can say together, Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gora Trishe Namaha. So the emphasis is on this Vadanyaya or Mahavadanyaya, greatly magnanimous. Magnanimous. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya, who is more magnanimous than any other avatar, even Krishna himself, because he is bestowing freely what no one else has ever given, pure love of Krishna. So our focus this evening is going to be, of course, the compassion of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu having loving exchanges with his childhood associates is very sweet and charming and loving. But the magnanimous pastime begins when he inaugurates the Yuga Dharma for the benefit of the people of his age and his place and his time, and then through the ages. So we're offering our obeisances unto the Vadanya, the most magnanimous of all personalities, of all avatars. Now, different definitions of magnanimous: generous in forgiving. Magnanimous person never seeks revenge. They're never resentful, they're unselfish, they're gracious. These are just very simple dictionary definitions of magnanimous. Prabhupada's definition, not considering who asked for it and who did not, nor who was fit or who unfit to receive it, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu distributed the fruit of devotional service. And more specifically, the fruit of devotional service means love of God. So very freely he gave. And from Chaitanya Charitamrita, in Adi Lila, there's this metaphor of Mahaprabhu as a transcendental gardener. So gardeners can be magnanimous too. The transcendental gardener, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, distributed handful after handful of fruits in all directions. And when the poor, hungry people ate the fruit, the gardener smiled with great pleasure. So, for the pleasure of the recipients as well as for the pleasure of the giver, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Sankirtan movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was postponed to its full manifestation until he received he received the seed of mercy by Ishwara Puri's visiting Navadvip, and Ishwara Puri giving him some service to edit his writings and so forth. And later his initiation in Gaya. And then he began his Sankirtan activities. And in the house of Srivasanga, etc., there's Advaita Acharya and Lord Nityananda, and associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu having wonderful Sankirtan. One of the most well-known, celebrated, glorified pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was his magnanimous feature of rescuing Jagai and Madhai. Of course, it was a little assist from Lord Nityananda. And in the painting, there's Lord Nityananda with blood on his head, because one of the two brothers hit him in the head with a clay pot because they were in their drunken state. And he was just asking them to chant. So in their drunken state, they threw a clay pot at him and hit him in the head. Now he has a transcendental body, and transcendental bodies don't have blood. But he gave the signs of as if he had a body like ours. And here he is with his right arm raised, with his Sudarshan chakra on the end of his fingertip, ready to chop the two brothers. And he was stopped from chopping by Lord Nityananda. So Lord Nityananda gets a big assist. But the merciful one was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, with Lord Nityananda being his instrument. And in order to engage in the compassionate activity of Sankirtan, or the congregational chanting, or any chanting of the holy name, then the teaching is that one has to be, according to Shikshastika, one has to be very tolerant, titikshava, karunikas, these characteristics of a Vaishnava. And here's Prabhupada's comment. So, for those who just came in, we're focusing on Compassion Part 3, the compassion of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. While engaged in preaching work, a sadhu has to meet with so many opposing elements, and therefore the sadhu, or devotee of the Lord, has to be very tolerant. Someone may ill-treat him because the conditioned souls are not prepared to receive the transcendental knowledge of devotional service. Sometimes devotees are personally attacked with violence, but still they were tolerant because their mission was to deliver the fallen souls. So 2 paintings depicting the same pastime. The tolerance, of course, the tolerance was specifically Lord Nityananda. And by the appeal of Lord Nityananda, Mahaprabhu excused Jagai Madhai completely on the promise that they'll never do such thing again. And it was very effective. They became very repentant. There's a place in Navadvip, or in Mayapur, Jagai and Madhai Ghat. It's a ghat that goes down to the Ganges, and they built the ghat so that pilgrims could go take their sacred bath in the Ganges. And they stood with folded palms on either side of the ghat as people would pay their obeisances before coming to take bath in the Ganges. And they would appeal to those devotees to forgive them. They're very repentant. Big change in their personalities. Sarva Dehinam, again, this is from a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, Kapila Dev's teachings on devotional service. Sarva Dehinam, to all living entities. He is not only a well-wisher of human society, but a well-wisher of animal society as well. Sarvadehinam indicates all living entities who have accepted material bodies. The devotees of the Lord, the devotee of the Lord is merciful to everyone, the cats, dogs, trees, etc. In the background of the painting, that's Lord Chaitanya's assistant as they were traveling through the Jarigan forest, and he looks a little scared. In the background, the elephants are chanting, the tigers and deer and the monkeys, and everyone's chanting by the influence of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He treats all living entities in such a way that they can ultimately get salvation from this material entanglement. Now that's the most elevated personality who could do what this picture is depicting. But by nature, compassion towards all living entities, well-wishing towards all living entities. When he began his pastime, now this pastime in the picture comes much later, after he had accepted sannyas, etc. But now we're back in Navadvip, after Jagai and Madhai were liberated or relieved of their sinful activities and reactions to their sinful activities, which were without limit. He also gave his compassionate association to Chankazi. Now there's many pastimes, and I wasn't really sure exactly how to go through this, because any one of these pastimes could be the whole evening. And it's too late to change direction, because I'm just going to narrate. Now, because there's some newer people here, you may get lost in the whirlwind of Lord Chaitanya's compassion, the pastimes of compassion. So just have to listen to the high level of the descriptions. This is when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began this Sankirtan movement, it was during a period in India, certainly in Bengal, when there was Muslim rule. Muslim rule meant they came in with their military and they overpowered anybody else and they took charge. And then so there was a king, and then there was persons underneath the king, and there were districts within each of those persons, and there was a magistrate. Something like what the British system followed, something similar. When for example, when Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a chief magistrate, it wasn't just sat in the court. He had other powers. So this is Chankazi, who had powers. He had military he was in charge of this whole area, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had begun his Sankirtan, the distribution of the chanting of the holy name. And of all people, the loudest objection people were the Brahmins. The Brahmins saw it, he's cutting in on our business. You don't do that in Bengal. You have a problem. So they took care of it by going to the Chankazi and say, what this fellow's doing is nowhere in our scripture, and you can't, you're the ruler, you have to have people abide by the standards of their living, so stop this person. So turns out Chankazi was a learned person, and he followed their advice, and he sent his constables to go where the devotees were having Sankirtan and ordered them to stop chanting, and ordered them to smash the mridanga with their sticks. That was a big mistake. You got some angry Bengalis. Hundreds and tens of thousands. So the very next day, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in Prabhupada's words, the first act of civil disobedience, purposely disobeyed Chand Kazi's order. And he had everybody, tens of thousands, he's just a young man. He's in his early 20s by, worldly calculation. And they went to every marketplace, 22 marketplaces, something like that, in Navadvip, and had massive, thousands, massive. It was better than Rath Yatra. And marketplace after marketplace after marketplace after marketplace, it took much of the day. They left them alone. The constables left them alone. And then at the end of the day, they had, as you see in the painting, they had torches so they could see their way at night, and they came right to the palace of Chand Kazi and sat down, civil disobedience, and had kirtan underneath his window. And he didn't come down. They asked him to come down. They sent messengers to ask him to come down, didn't come down. Finally, he came down. And the discussion back and forth between the two, very beautiful discussion. It turns out, as I mentioned, Chand Kazi was not only learned in his scriptures, he was learned in Vaishnava scriptures or Vedic scriptures, Vedic texts. So Lord Chaitanya said, I'd have just one question for you. What's that? What kind of religion is it that you kill your mother and father? So what are you talking about? The cow is your mother and the bull is your father. He plows the field, and your religion, you kill your mother and father. So what kind of religion is that? To the Kazi, to the guy that's in charge. But it was learned discussion, and he said, well, your scripture, there's also cow sacrifice. And Lord Chaitanya corrected him. It's not the cow is killed. It's the older cow is given a new life, a young calf, to test the power of Vedic mantra. And anyway, further and further discussion. In the course of the discussion, Chand Kazi said, I want to tell you something in private. And Lord Chaitanya said, we're amongst friends. 10,000 angry Bengalis. No problem. So he said last night, it wasn't a dream. I was resting in my bed, and this fearsome personality jumped on my chest, half man, half lion, jumped on my chest and was roaring and threatened to kill me, and said, if you ever stop this Sankirtan movement again, you're finished. And he ripped my chest as if he was going to rip my chest open. Look, and he opened his shirt, and there was the claw marks of Lord Nrsingadev, ready to rip him to shreds, because he stopped Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. So he made a declaration. Henceforward, during my rule as the Kazi, and any subsequent generations after me, because that was the system, his sons would become the next Kazi, and their sons would become the next Kazi. Any future generations, they will not interfere with your Sankirtan. So from that point on, the compassionate manifestation of public Sankirtan was made possible by a transcendental pastime of Lord Chaitanya's compassion, specifically in this case upon Chand Kazi, and then all the residents of Navadvip. And one of the residents of Navadvip was a dear devotee of Lord Chaitanya, and at the same time he was a dear devotee of Lord Ramachandra. And he was a physician, and his name was Murari Gupta. Murari Gupta's house was very near to Lord Chaitanya's parents' house, Jagannath Mishra's house and Murari Gupta's house were very close by. And so from time to time he would come to visit. And Lord Chaitanya knew he was his devotee. So one time he went to the house of Murari Gupta and he showed this form of Lord Varaha. And of course, gigantic form, lifting this, what do you call those things? A vessel that carries water. Huh?
Clay pot.
Clay pot. That's an easy one. There's some name for it. So he lifted, as you see in the painting, and roared as it was Lord Varaha rescuing the earth from the bottom of the Garbhodak ocean, and his body became very big. The painting is showing there's Lord Chaitanya, and he simultaneously manifested this form of Lord Varaha. This is described very detailed way in Chaitanya Bhagavat. For our newer audience, there are several beginning to end narrations of Lord Chaitanya's life, biographies of Lord Chaitanya's life. Specifically, the earlier part of his life is described in a book titled Chaitanya Bhagavat, and this is a pastime from Chaitanya Bhagavat. Then there's another Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Mangala, and there's others. So these pastimes are depicted directly from those historical records of his life. People that were there, first-handed witnesses of the events, and very, very capable writers, gifted, empowered by Krishna to write. So Murari Gupta was a very dear devotee of Lord Chaitanya, and he gave his compassion in a number of ways besides this one that's in the painting. In course of time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became inspired to take the chanting beyond Navadvip, and the inspiration came that, of course, it's his Leela, but in his Leela, he was going to accept the renounced order of life. Now, when he accepted the renounced order of life, he was still 24 years of age. That's not a normal time for someone to take sannyas. It's usually much later. But that's what he did. And he was married. He was a grahastha. The goddess of fortune was his wife. And he decided one evening, according to Chaitanya Bhagavat, that he was going to leave the next day to take sannyas. So in the middle of the night, while his wife was asleep, Lakshmi Priya, he quietly left. And there's another painting depicting the same. I like the first one better, but the second one is there, because it was already at night when he left. And this painting shows he's walking out the front door. In Chaitanya Bhagavat, his mother, Sachi, had the intuitive understanding that this is something he was going to do. So she was by the door. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, according to Chaitanya Bhagavat, just passed right by her. And she stayed there all night and into the morning. And so how is this compassion? She was very sad, transcendently sad. She spent the whole night weeping by the door, and people came to pay their respects to her because she's Mother Sachi. Her husband had departed this world, her only one son. He, besides Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, had already taken sannyas, and now her other son is taking sannyas. She's left alone, Mother Sachi. She was just crying. So people came to see her in the morning and pay the respects to her because of her elderly and elevated position. And she couldn't speak. She was just silent, crying. And when they asked, where's your son? She said, according to Chaitanya Bhagavat, all the paraphernalia of my son, you can take it and do whatever you like with it. So then they understood. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was gone. So a number of paintings, this is Vishnu Priya waking up in the morning and her husband's gone. And where he went, he had a plan, and the plan was to go to Katwa, where only a handful of the devotees knew, but there were many other residents in Katwa that came to know, and they're anticipating. It's a nice place to visit, by the way, if you go to Mayapur, to go to Katwa. And there's the place where the wedding occurred, and the person who performed the wedding was the local Brahmin Chandrasekhar Acharya. Many nice things to say about Mahaprabhu's pastimes. And he informed Lord Nityananda that only 5 of his intimate associates should be informed, and they could come and be present when he took sannyas. In the painting, it shows Madhu the barber. There's a samadhi for Madhu the barber. There's a samadhi for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's hair in Katwa. And there's the little yagya, a little fire, at least for the painting. I'm sure that was a little bit bigger than that little fire. But there's the sannyasi who was giving the sannyas mantras to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the sannyasi that he accepted the sannyas order from was Keshava Bharati. Now Keshava Bharati, as you can see from the painting, is Mayavadi sannyasi. And this was a practice that hadn't continued for some time, for that matter, because during this period of history, the Mayavadi influence was very strong. The renunciation mood and respectability amongst the followers of Shankaracharya was very strong, and so it wasn't at all uncommon that sannyas was accepted from a Shankara sannyasi. So the Shankara sannyasi that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu selected or identified just happened to be in the vicinity of Navadvip in Katwa. So that's where he went, that's where the ceremony was performed, and when it was time, the celebrated event, in his awarding of sannyas, he leaned over to Keshava Bharati and whispered in his ear, "Last night I had a dream. I heard in the dream a mantra. Is this the mantra that I'll be initiated by?" And he whispered the mantra in his ear, which means he initiated him. And Keshava Bharati said, "Yes, this is the mantra I shall give you." So after receiving the mantra from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he gave the mantra to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the event, Mahaprabhu announced the evening before this all happened, this is going to take place on Makra Sankranti, so next time it's Makra Sankranti, you know it's a nice time when Mahaprabhu accepted sannyas. Now Mother Sachi was also informed where the yagya was going to be performed. She came to see her son. And when she came to see her son, there's sadness. Here she is embracing her son. And there, in the next painting, there's Lord Nityananda and many of Lord Chaitanya's associates. This is a very old style of painting, but there's a lot of paintings on this part of Lord Chaitanya's life. His wife, Ishwar, Lakshmi Priya, what to do. He's accepted sannyas. So there's different narrations. One narration was that, not as this painting shows, but that Lord Chaitanya awarded her his shoes. And another version is that Lord Chaitanya gave her a deity of himself. Now, when I was visiting just before coming here to Chicago or Naperville, I was in ISKCON Silicon Valley, ISKCON ISV. And they have very beautiful deities of Radha Krishna on the altar. And right next to the beautiful deities of Radha Krishna on the altar is this deity of Dhameshwara Mahadev. And the mudra, this is Vaisheshika Prabhu, Lord Chaitanya is giving his mercy. This is the give mercy mudra. So he somehow, I don't know how he did it, had some carver carve some neem deities of Dhameshwara Mahadev and gave them as gifts to members of his congregation to inspire book distribution. And after accepting sannyas, then a series of events took place. Now, the focus, these are pastimes, and I want to stay focused on the compassion. So it looks like unkindness. You leave his young wife. She was still in her, she was younger than him. He was 24, and she was in her late teens. And once she left, she's not going to get, there's no such thing in Vedic culture of a young Vedic woman being remarried. So for the rest of her life, she has this deity of Lord Chaitanya, but she doesn't have Lord Chaitanya. So it's love and separation. And that's another big topic to understand, the mood of ecstasy and love in separation. But it's part of Lord Chaitanya's teachings, it's part of Rupa Goswami's teachings about the life of devotion. So there's compassion even when there's this intense mood of separation, orchestrated by the Supreme Lord himself. He wanted to go to Vrindavan. His ecstasy was to be with Krishna, and Krishna's in Vrindavan, so he wanted to go to Vrindavan. And he was in this ecstatic kind of semi-delirious state. So he asked Lord Nityananda which way to Vrindavan. And Lord Nityananda said that way. But that way wasn't the way to Vrindavan, it was the opposite. But it was to take him to the house of Advaita Acharya, so the associates of Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya could get their final darshan of him. So for several days, Lord Chaitanya stayed in the home of Advaita Acharya in Shantipur. And Mother Sachi came, and Mother Sachi appealed, don't go to Vrindavan. If you go to Vrindavan, I may never hear of you again. You want to go to Vrindavan because Krishna is there, but Krishna is also in Puri. And the devotees from Bengal every year, they go to Puri to attend Rath Yatra. And if they go to Puri and you're there in Puri, then at least I'll get word of you. And if you go to Vrindavan, I may never even hear of you again. Just like your brother Vishwarup. So please go to Puri instead. So he went to Puri instead. Now that's a pastime, and there's a transcendental reason why he went to Puri. Part of it is separation from Krishna, mode of love and separation. And then there's another reason, and it has to do with the Rath Yatra festival, and there's many nice transcendental reasons. But Puri was his residence for the second half of his life. 48 years he remained. So when he reached Puri, one of the first things, many things happened. One of the first things was he went to see Lord Jagannath. When he went to see Lord Jagannath, he fainted in ecstasy. right in front of the deities. And the guards thought, what's this fellow? And so they were going to toss him out of the temple room. And at that very moment, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who was the chief priest of the king, so he had some stature and some seniority and some clout, he said, don't remove him. Bring him to my home. Let me revive him. Many things happened. In the course of reviving him, he couldn't revive him, but the associates who were traveling from Shantipur to go to Puri, they knew what to do. They just chanted Hare Krishna very loudly. And Lord Chaitanya came to external consciousness. Some discussion between Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Lord Chaitanya. Who are you, and who's your father, and so on and so forth, so on. And you're a young sannyasi, you're so beautiful, how are you going to maintain your sannyas properly? If you like, I can train you in Vedanta Sutra, because this will give you protection, so you can maintain your vows of sannyas. So here's this elderly, learned Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And this young sannyasi saying, sure. So that pastime took place, 7 days, non-stop. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's teaching the personality of Godhead about Vedanta Sutra. On the 8th morning, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, you don't say anything. I don't know if you're understanding or not understanding. So can you say something? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I very well understand Vedanta Sutra, but your explanations are covering over the meaning of Vedanta Sutra. Oh, really? So you explain Vedanta Sutra. So he explained Vedanta Sutra in such a way that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, being super scholar, was amazed. I've never heard this explanation before. And I can understand you're not just a scholarly young sannyasi, you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now there's two versions. One version is this one. Lord Chaitanya then revealed the form that you see behind him. There's Krishna holding a flute, and there's Lord Narayana with his four-armed form, and Lord Chaitanya standing before them. That he's, in other words, he's not just a young sannyasi, he's the personality of Godhead. And in Chaitanya Bhagavat, the different version is he showed a six-armed form. Now in the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and in some temples, they have a Sadbhuj form. So 2 arms Krishna, 2 arms Lord Chaitanya, with his water pot and danda, and then Ramchandra with bow and arrows. So in either case, he showed his divinity. And when he showed his divinity, then that triggered something in Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's super scholar. He just went into a state of ecstasy of super scholarship and started spontaneously composing 100 verses in Sanskrit, glorifying Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And one of them is written here. Somehow somebody remembered, maybe Lord Chaitanya remembered and told it later, because he didn't write it down, he just recited it. But this is found in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Let's say the verse together. Vairagya vidya nija bhakti yoga kshikshartam ekam purushak puranaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Shariradhari Kripam Budhir Yastamaham Prapadye. So Kripa, Ambudhi. He's an Ambudhi of Kripa. He's an ocean of mercy. And he is in this form, Sri Krsna Caitanya, Sharira Dhari. He's accepted the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And his teaching is Vairagya Vidya Nija, means his own devotional service. Devotional service that's accompanied by knowledge and detachment. So this is one of the 100 verses spontaneously composed by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. The painting over on the right, it shows Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, the elder Vaishnav, actually elder scholar, who later became a Vaishnav, because prior to that he was just super scholar. So here's the translation found in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Let me take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who has descended in the form of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to teach us real knowledge, his devotional service, and detachment from whatever does not foster Krishna consciousness. He has descended because he is an ocean of transcendental mercy. Let me surrender unto his lotus feet. Now this is found in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and I can't remember. Does somebody in the room remember how it was that Krishnadas Kaviraj came to know this verse amongst the 100 verses that were composed by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya? But Lord Chaitanya gave his mercy. That's the main theme of this evening, the compassion of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Here's another verse. The principle of transcendental devotional service having been lost, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has appeared to deliver again the process of devotion. He is so kind that he is distributing love of Krishna. Everyone should be attracted more and more to his lotus feet as humming bees are attracted to a lotus flower. Now it's filled with poetry and poetic imagery, but before he was a dry scholar, and he says in Chaitanya Charitamrita, I was like a dry oil cake. But by your mercy, I've now become filled with all this nice flowery language, but also transcendental mood of loving devotion. Lord Chaitanya very compassionately filled him, because otherwise he was headed in a much different direction. After some time of residing in Puri, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made an excuse. He's omniscient, so he knew that his elder brother Vishwarup, who had taken sannyas when he was younger, had expired, but he didn't say that because he said instead, I want to travel in South India and see if I can find my brother. So who can stop him? So they sent him with one assistant, and along with the one assistant, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya specifically said, there's one great Vaishnava, please meet him in the course of your travels in South India. He's the governor of Madras, then in the language of Chaitanya Charya. So then the governor of Chennai, it was part of the kingdom of the king in Orissa. The kingdom extended all the way down there. His name is Ramananda Roy. When I met him before, I thought he was just this silly sentimentalist. But by your association, I can understand he had very profound understanding of Scripture. You'll enjoy very much meeting with him. Please, in the course of your travels, meet with him. So he left, all the way chanting this nice mantra, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hey, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava Rakshamam, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava Pahimam, with his arms stretched and dancing and chanting, and everyone was so charmed and moved because he's the personality of Godhead, giving love of God freely to everyone. And little children and everybody became thrilled in love of God and danced with him. And in this way, the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita says, the whole of the 2 years that he spent traveling, he was doing like that. This is just one grain in the pot of rice. So all the while giving his compassionate experience of love of God through the chanting of the holy name. In one place, in the course of his South India travel, he came to a venue where there was a leper. And the leper's name was Vasudeva. And the nice pastime where Lord Chaitanya, seeing the leper, compassionately embraced the leper. Normally you don't embrace lepers. He embraced the leper, and the leprosy of Vasudeva was cured, miracle cure. So it wasn't just he had a miracle cure, cured his leprosy, but he filled him with love of God. And then Vasudeva, Amrita Prada, that became a name of Lord Chaitanya, just gave his such mercy to Vasudeva. And Vasudeva offered beautiful, beautiful prayers, and one can imagine he became a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya. Deeply grateful and an instrument of spreading Lord Chaitanya's mercy. Further along this South India travel, before he met Ramananda Roy, he came across in South India a Buddhist teacher with his followers. And the Buddhist teacher with his followers had wanted to challenge. It was like a thing of the time, you challenge another person. So he was going to challenge Lord Chaitanya in debate. Didn't work very well for the Buddhist teacher. And it's recorded in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And the Buddhist teacher was defeated and he was shamed. So he decided to disgrace Lord Chaitanya by bringing this nice big platter of contaminated food and called it Mahaprasadam. He wanted to offer Mahaprasadam. So as he came to offer this abominable stuff, a big bird that looks like a hawk or an eagle or something, but it just says a big bird, came and flew down and picked up the tray. All the food fell off the tray, and he dropped the tray on the head of the Buddhist teacher. Bonk. Knocked him out. And everyone, the followers came to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and appealed to him for forgiveness. We heard your teachings. These are such wonderful teachings. Please tell us more. Please forgive us for this, our part in this offense and our teacher's offense. And please tell us more, tell us more. So in different amazing ways, Lord Chaitanya gave his mercy. Now, not shown here is the visit, the exchange he had with Ramananda Roy, which is a major part of Lord Chaitanya's compassion. Some of you know, some of you may not know. There's a book that Prabhupada wrote as a summary study of Chaitanya Charitamrita, at least the teachings part, and he called it the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Before we had Chaitanya Charitamrita, we had the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And there are 5 teaching sections. And one of those teaching sections is Lord Chaitanya's talks with Ramananda Roy. very elevated, most elevated, in a summary manner, teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So he met with Ramananda Roy, and they had transcendental exchanges with one another. Ramananda Roy later left his post with the king and came to live with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Puri and be with him constantly, along with Swarup Damodar, these two principal, very scholarly Vaishnavas, Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Roy. And after some time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned to Puri 2 years later, and spending some time in Puri, he then notified everyone he wanted to make pilgrimage to Vrindavan, naturally, although he's in Puri. And so, those of you that know your geography in India a little bit, Puri is way over there on the east coast, by the sea. Vrindavan is way over there in the northwest. So the way to get to Vrindavan from Puri isn't you go north. You go west. North a little bit, but mainly west. He went straight north. And when he went straight north, he went to meet with the two brothers, Rupa and Sanatan. And their third brother, Anupam, was with them. They had been writing letters to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Please relieve us from our bondage of material contaminated association with the Muslim ruler. So Lord Chaitanya went there, gave them Diksha, told them in due course of time, you come meet with me. Sanatana Goswami, the elder of the two brothers, or three brothers, said, I don't think you should stay here, because Nawab Hussain Shah, today, he thinks you're a saint, and tomorrow he may think you're an enemy. He's wild man, and he can do anything, so I don't advise that you stay. And the second thing is, you came here with some thousands of followers. And etiquette to enter in Vrindavan, don't go to Vrindavan with thousands of followers. Go to Vrindavan as a sannyasi, alone with one or two associates at max. Just, giving advice to the personality of Godhead, who he knew was the personality of Godhead. It's a pastime. So Lord Chaitanya went back to Puri, and later, the Sanatana Goswami went to meet with Lord Chaitanya. They met up in the course of Lord Chaitanya's travels to Vrindavan. This is a painting showing their meeting. In the background of the painting is the assistant, the brahmachari assistant that was traveling with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Sanatana Goswami is wearing this expensive garment that his brother-in-law gave him as he was traveling. He gave up the garment and accepted the attire of a mendicant. And Lord Chaitanya gave teachings to him in this location. Said, after some time, you can meet me again in Puri. This was on his way back from Vrindavan. And on his way to Vrindavan, he passed through the Jharkhand forest. This is one of two paintings showing Lord Chaitanya having all the animals and birds and deer and lions and elephants and you name it, singing and dancing. No ordinary person can't do this, but he gave his compassion to all living entities, like we see in this painting, and then we saw this painting before. On his way to Vrindavan, there were some Muslim soldiers that they're depicted, the horseback riding fellows here, and they saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was in a mood of ecstasy, had fallen to the ground. And they deduced that those persons that were traveling with him had robbed him and given him poison because they wanted his wealth. So they were going to execute these 4. But 2 of the persons were fearless, and they spoke and said, no, he's a sannyasi, he just sometimes falls into the swoon. And as they were having this conversation, Lord Chaitanya came to external consciousness and said, no, they're my associates and everything's okay. And he gave mercy to the Muslim soldiers. Just by anywhere he would go, anything he would do, he's the bestower of mercy. Later, again, he met Sanatana Goswami. Here's Sanatana Goswami grasping his feet, asking for Lord Chaitanya's forgiveness for his misguided ways of material life. And this illustrates similarly the message of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. He descended because an ocean of transcendental mercy. So there's Sanatan Shiksha section, where in detail, Lord Chaitanya gave instructions to Sanatana Goswami. The painting is showing Sanatana Goswami is holding a straw in his teeth as an external symbol of humility. And Lord Chaitanya, recognizing his credential, his capacity, filled him up with transcendental knowledge. And he gave him the capacity to understand everything that he had explained, and gave him the capacity to, with his brother Rupa, to also write literatures explaining what he had given to him. This is in Varanasi, and in the same place there was a headquarters of Mayavadi sannyasis. Another compassionate display by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was to convert Prakashananda Saraswati, the leader of thousands of other sannyasis, by discussions in transcendental knowledge. So all of this is depicted in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Maybe you'll be inspired to read it. Certainly when Gaur Purnima comes around, you'll be inspired to read it. And I'm sure here in Naperville you'll be distributing sets of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So he gave his mercy. Now, it's out of sequence, but this is when Lord Chaitanya was never back in South India. He was traveling in South India. I'm sorry, they're not in sequence. This is his meeting with Ramananda Roy. Ramananda Roy at that time was a governor of a whole big city, and behind him are his ministers. With Lord Chaitanya are the few associates, and the ministers didn't understand the loving exchange, the embrace between the two personalities, and so they decided, let us meet not in a public place like this. So an arrangement was made for them to meet. Ramananda Roy was put into position by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu, the young sannyasi, was asking the learned Ramananda Roy, please explain this, please explain that, please explain this, please explain that. In the course of explaining, words were coming from his mouth that he had never spoken before, because then he understood Lord Chaitanya is making this arrangement for me to be speaking truths that I've never spoken before. You're the personality of Godhead. And sure enough, the personality of Godhead, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, revealed his form of Radha Krishna. So the range and the ways of loving exchange, of compassionate dealings between Lord Chaitanya and others, it's very profound. The king came to know through Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who was his chief priest, that in your kingdom is the personality of Godhead. And the king said, I trust you completely. Your words are true. Whatever you say is true. Can you make an arrangement for me to meet with him? Oh, that's not easy to do. And so Lord Chaitanya wouldn't meet with him. This thing, that thing, the other thing, the other thing. Finally, a plan was made at the time of Rath Yatra. You can see in the background of the painting, there's the canopy of the Rath Yatra cart. And halfway through the procession, Lord Chaitanya will go to this very quiet place, Jagannath Ballabh Gardens, and he'll take rest. And you can go not dressed in your royal attire, but in simple garments, and recite verses from 10th Canto Bhagavatam. And it'll be very pleasing to Lord Chaitanya. So that's what happened. So King Prataparudra got the compassionate mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu after much ordeal of being denied. Because Lord Chaitanya was saying, I'm a sannyasi. How can I deal with a person involved with worldly affairs? Yeah, but he's your devotee. He's your dear devotee. But I can't transgress etiquette. So it was stalemate until this transcendental arrangement was made. Another circumstance when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would go to the Jagannath temple. Now I don't, probably some of you have been to the Jagannath temple. I have the wrong kind of body, so I can't go in the temple. But I understand that in the distance away from the altar, there's a Garuda Stamba, where Garuda's on a pedestal. And so one time Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was observing the deity from a distance. Because of his humility, he wouldn't go close to the altar. One old woman stood on his shoulders, holding on to the Garuda Stamba, and his servant is telling her, get down, what are you doing? And Lord Chaitanya said, if only I had the enthusiasm of this Vaishnavi, my life would be perfect. So he had her continuous. When she realized what she was doing, she was very embarrassed. She got down and fell at his feet, but he gave his mercy to her too. There's many. There's a few more. One of the dearmost associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Leela in Puri is Jagatananda Pandit. Jagatananda Pandit, of course, he was a Brahmana by birth and by his quality, but he also was an unusual person. He liked, although he knew Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was living the life of a sannyasi, he liked to provide him nice things. So one of the things he made personally is he arranged for pressing oil of sandalwood and made a whole jar of sandalwood and gave it to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who didn't use it because sannyasis don't use stuff like that. So it sat in his room and sat in his room and sat in his room. And Jagadananda asked, did he use my sandalwood oil? Did he use my sandalwood oil? And the servant was in a rock and a hard place. He couldn't say yes, he couldn't say no. So one time Jagatananda Pandit came in, as you see in the painting, and he smashed the sandalwood oil on the pavement. What sandalwood oil? What are you talking about? It was just, his mood of love was not being reciprocated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the way that he wanted it. Lord Chaitanya accepted his love and his service, but not the sandalwood oil. So many nice things. The loving exchange, the compassionate loving exchange between Jagatananda was his servant, but he had a mood of wanting to serve in a way that Lord Chaitanya was not okay with accepting his mood. He accepted the love, but not the items. There's many nice things. one of the activities that happened every year for all the duration of time that Lord Chaitanya was in Puri is devotees would come to join the Rath Yatra festival. And then after the Rath Yatra festival, they would stay for the rest of the rainy season and to be with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And one of the procedures or practices or customs was they would bring food items cooked in such a way that they would stay, not spoil. And principal person that loved cooking for Lord Chaitanya this way her name was Damayanti, and her husband was Raghava Pandit. So there's a celebrated section in Chaitanya Charitamrita speaking of the bags of Raghava Pandit or Raghavera Jali. And Lord Chaitanya would say, just put it in the corner. And it got so crowded in the room, there wasn't room for Lord Chaitanya. so he said, what should I tell people? They ask, did he eat it and did he like it? You know that thing. And so he said, okay, bring it and I'll eat it. And so he ate it all, except for the bags of Raghava Pandit. And then little by little he would eat some each day. Now the painting shows the space where Lord Chaitanya is pretty large, but the space where Lord Chaitanya resided is pretty small. Those of you that have been to Puri, you know. Gambhira is very small. So I don't know where they fit everything. But that's the painting, the BBT painting, showing this compassion of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reciprocating with the love of Raghava Pandit and Damayanti. Another prasadam pastime is, from time to time, different devotees would invite Lord Chaitanya to come to their place to have lunch. So one of the places he would go from time to time was the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Now, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had a daughter, and his daughter was married to a Brahmana named Amogha. And when Amogha purposefully waited to see when Lord Chaitanya was eating, and he'd come in from the back door and then started criticizing Lord Chaitanya, you eat so much, what kind of sannyasi are you? And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya picked up a stick and started chasing Amogha, get out of here. And for that offense, Amogha contracted a disease, cholera. It was a very virulent disease. And he was on his deathbed. And Lord Chaitanya came to know. He was in the deathbed. And so he came and placed his hand on Amogha's chest. Amogha, get up. Chant the holy name. You know, another miracle cure. And Amogha was completely cured of his cholera, like Vasudeva was completely cured of his leprosy. But not only his body disease, but his contaminated consciousness disease was cured by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so much variety of pastimes. There was another food pastime. There was a devotee who arranged for some nice prasadam for Lord Chaitanya. Chota Haridas. Chota Haridas is an adjective to indicate to distinguish between Haridas Thakur. There was the Chota, means little, Haridas. So he arranged some nice rice, and it was very, very special rice. And as Lord Chaitanya was eating the rice, he asked where the rice come from. Very special rice. Oh, Chota Haridas went to someone's house and got the rice, and he prepared it for you. So without a blink, Mahaprabhu said, tell that rascal, Baulia Haridas, he should never come here again, never see me. Because he's a sannyasi associating with a woman. No, he wasn't just associating, he went to get some rice. But Lord Chaitanya was being very strict in this particular case, and in general he was very strict with male-female association. So different devotees came on behalf of Chota Haridas. Please forgive him, it wasn't like that, it was like this. And enough times that Lord Chaitanya said, look, you stop bothering me about this or I'm leaving Puri. So they stopped bothering him. And Chota Haridas decided, if I can't see Lord Chaitanya, better that I give up my life, and so he gave up his life. And in the evenings, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would go by the side of the sea, and here, one of the activities of Chota Haridas was he was a very, very gifted singer. So he would hear Chota Haridas singing and enjoy the singing of Chota Haridas. So seemingly harsh, but very merciful in some cases. And here's a very nice painting, we're almost done. Very nice painting of Shivananda Sain. Shivananda Sain is that fellow that's in the far right of the painting, paying his obeisances. Shivananda Sain was kind of like a village elder amongst the devotees in Bengal who would come every year to Jagannath Puri. Several hundred people would travel by foot from Bengal to go to Puri. And to go from Bengal to Puri, it's an ordeal. You know, where are you going to get the meals? Where are you going to spend the night? Sometimes there's river crossings, and there's this group of Muslims and that group of Muslims on the other side of the river, and had to negotiate, and yada, yada, yada. So he did all of that as a service to the Vaishnavas. And one of the things that he did was he made arrangement for their meal for everybody in different places. Not an easy thing to do. It's not like, you know, there's a Govinda's restaurant around the corner. So one of the things that happened was, in the course of their travel, there was a stray dog. You know, in India there's such things. So he decided to be very compassionate and feed the dog. So every evening, along with making sure that everyone had accommodation and their meal, he wanted to make sure the dog had his meal. So one evening they couldn't find the dog to give him his meal. So he sent 10 men in all directions looking for the dog. They couldn't find the dog. He felt very badly. And then when he got to Puri, lo and behold, there was the dog. He got to Puri before Shivananda Sain did, and the whole Bengal Vaishnavas. And there he was, in a place where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was having the dog chant. He would order Mahaprabhu, that's what the painting is depicting, he would order the dog, chant Hare Krishna. So I can't imitate it, dog chanting Hare Krishna. So, Hare Krishna. And then Chaitanya, as you see in the painting, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then threw him some pulp from the inside of a coconut. And he would eat the coconut pulp, and then Lord Chaitanya would ask him, order him, chant again. The dog would chant again. So when Shivananda Sain, when Shivananda Sain came to offer his respects to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what did he see but the dog, the missing dog that he couldn't find anywhere, and he was so sad, and that there's the dog being fed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, chanting Hare Krishna. So Shivananda Sain paid his obeisances to the dog. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave his mercy very liberally to everyone. Here's and very nice painting of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as a sannyasi, chanting and dancing in ecstasy and love of God. Another classic painting going back in time when he was still in Navadvip, performing Sankirtan with the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and in this way spreading Krishna Prema Pradayate, giving freely Krishna Prema to everyone in the form of this congregational chanting of the holy name. And this is our final slide. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself, compassionately giving, as we heard Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya write, what no other incarnation has ever even offered before, love of God, freely. Now there's freely means there's a price, and this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the price is faith. One of his series of songs, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's songs. You go to a marketplace, Namahata, the marketplace of the holy name, and there's a price for everything. And the price for receiving the gift of the holy name is faith. That's it. So we're going to place our faith in something. So the compassionate Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a great place to place our faith in. That gift which he gave is the holy name. Of course, he gave Srimad Bhagavatam and many nice instructions to Rupa and Sanatan and others, and how to live the life of a Vaishnava. But the tip of the spear is the holy name. And that's the compassion of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So let's see if there's some discussion. It's only 7:45. An hour and 15 minutes we've gone. Yes, Jivana Jivana. Could you pass the microphone back? You're on.
I'm asking on behalf of two devotees, two different questions.
Nameless devotees, right?
No, they're named. First is my wife, so I get dinner tomorrow. She's asking, while Lord Chaitanya was ultimately compassionate to Chota Haridas, it certainly didn't seem that Mahaprabhu was trembling with Chota Haridas in his suffering. The Anukampa was the word he uses. Despite what meets the eye, can we assume that Lord Chaitanya was, quote, trembling with the suffering Chota Haridas?
Yeah. Yeah. On the one hand, and on the other hand, that the pastime, the commentary on that pastime is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to instruct strongly those who are in the renounced order of life should live according to the renounced order of life and not otherwise. And he was strict. So he was using his dear devotee Chota Haridas as the recipient of that instruction so that others would follow. Now, did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, her question specifically is, was he Anukampa? Those who you weren't with us yesterday, one of the characteristics of, one of the terminologies for compassion is Anukampa. It's right in Bhagavad Gita. And in that Anukampa word, it means one who trembles with. That's where her question is coming from. So Krishna experiences the misfortune of others, and as they're trembling due to their misfortune, he's trembling with them. So Anukampa. Directly a phrase from Bhagavad Gita. And the etymology of that word Anukampa. So he felt compassion for him, or her specifically, trembling with. So he wanted to be with his dear devotee, Chota Haridas. At the same time, he's giving him this special mercy that he can be the recipient of seemingly severe dealings. And there's many nice examples of that, of a devotee being chastised by a senior person, by Krishna dealing in a specific way with a devotee, and Krishna seemingly being very harsh. And then the advice of learned devotees is, you're a special recipient of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. He won't do that with me. He won't chastise, Lord Chaitanya won't chastise me, but he's chastised you. You're so fortunate. It's a special kind of mercy. So the trembling with is the force of her question. Yes. And demonstrated by that nice painting. Following the trembling becomes the relief. He was giving his association to Chota Haridas, very, very gifted singer, hearing his singing in a very loving way. Not to the eyes of everyone, but in that very personal relationship. So yes. To what meets the eye kind of inspection, it doesn't look like it. The other question?
I'm a little hesitant to ask a question, but it's coming from His Grace Vishnu Gada Prabhu.
Vishnu Gada.
Yeah, he's not listening to his class necessarily, but he had a question that has come up recently in the Naperville community as well, that I've heard, so the question that he wanted to ask you specifically.
In relation to Lord Chaitanya?
No.
No.
Do you want to do it offline? Or?
Yeah. I mean, I want to stay on topic. I've been down this road. And it's good to stay on topic. It's good to stay on topic.
I had one comment, Maharaj.
Okay.
The two verses that you quoted of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya,
yes.
I just confirmed in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that when he offered the 100 verses, that is a book in itself called Sushloka Shataka. And then 2 days later, he composed these two verses in a palm leaf that he gave Jagadananda Prabhu to give to Mahaprabhu. And along the way, Mukunda Datta took it from him, took it from Jagadananda Prabhu, wrote it on the outside of the home that Mahaprabhu was staying on.
Gambhira, yeah.
And then the two leaves were given to Mahaprabhu,
and he
who
ripped
just
them.
tore it up. Yeah. And so all the devotees read those
Okay,
verses.
it's a nice detail. So he wrote these on palm leaves the following day, and as a gift to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, yes?
2 days later.
2 days later.
Yeah, the next day was the prasadam that he had brought to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya from the temple of Jagannath. And the day after that is when he had composed these verses.
Okay. Good detail, thank you.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
A little louder, please.
Thank you very much for all these heart-melting pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. And from there, this question is coming. Lord Chaitanya gave love of God to everyone, but only price is faith. And I was just thinking that being grahasthas, we make many practical considerations oftentimes. To do something or not to do something, to take a service or not to take a service. So I'm a little bit, questioning myself that what is the difference between practical considerations and lack of faith?
Well, come on. It depends. Doesn't it? So, practical considerations are not connected to faith. Practical considerations are so many, say, time constraints. Not only grahastas experience time constraints, let me tell you. So I can't do everything I want to do. Is it because of lack of faith, or is it just my capacity is X, it's not 16X? So I can't do everything. So it's a practical consideration. It's not a question of faith. Now, purportedly, if my faith was greater, I could do 16 things instead of X. But I have my capacity, so I have to act within my capacity. That's a practical consideration, which is related to your question, so many services, and you have to decide. Then it becomes, you manage your time as best you can to your Krishna conscious capacity, and make sure you do, we discussed this yesterday, the principal things first. The sadhana things come first. At least sometime during the day, the sadhana things they're not going to be missing. And one who has faith will do that.
To follow, Maharaj.
Yeah, the question is very broad. I mean, you're asking principle, but the application of the principle is very broad. So it depends.
So time management is one aspect, but other aspect is, taking some risk where your nature doesn't allow, you are hesitant to do something, but you want to go ahead and try, do it, but still there is some, hesitation.
Well, then if there's some authority behind your doing or not doing, that's another place to look. And the authority, is there explicit? Then you go ask, should I? Or you search the scripture. If you don't know, then you may want to pause. And if you know, then you go forward to your capacity with time and everything else.
Thank you so much.
Anyone else? Yeah? He has one already.
Maharaj, sometimes eagerness and humility seem to be at odds with each other. Just like in this pastime where Lord Chaitanya is standing in the back of the temple, he's expressing humility, and then the lady comes in on his shoulders, and that's not very humble, but Lord Chaitanya praises her eagerness.
Yes.
In the same way, like Maharaj Prataparudra, Lord Chaitanya doesn't want to see him, so if he could have just accepted it as this is, I'm not qualified.
Good
but
point.
He's so eager.
Good point.
So which one is, yes.
Heads or tails? Well, thinking how Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes this verse of Rupa Goswami, this utsahan is first. Now, how the enthusiasm or utsahan is to be applied, varies from circumstance to circumstance. In climbing on the shoulders of somebody, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or anybody, in order to have darshan of the deity, that's a little, extreme. But then it depends. So, for example, in spontaneous devotion, then regulations that are normally to be observed may not be observed, and there's no offense. So what she did was not an offense, although it was an offense, standing on someone's shoulders in the middle of the temple room. But on the spontaneous platform of devotion, that's what Lord Chaitanya recognized. If only I had so much love for Lord Chaitanya, love for Jagannath as she has, then my life would be perfect. So it depends on the platform of one's Krishna consciousness. And for most of us, we're not on the spontaneous, we're on the regulative platform, so we follow the regulations. And at a certain stage of life, of advancement of spiritual life, we may become qualified to move into that uncharted territory, the spontaneous devotional service territory. And then the spontaneity rules. She was embarrassed afterwards when she recognized what she did. Whew, what have I done? But she just lost control out of her spontaneous eagerness to see Lord Jagannath. Anything else? Yeah, sure.
This is a slightly different question, but there's compassion, like the feeling of compassion.
Wait a minute. There's compassion.
The feeling of compassion that devotees have that we should develop, and then there's the feeling of service that I should serve the Lord. I should. My role is just to serve.
Yeah.
Krishna is the most compassionate person, and like in the case of the spiritual master, one can feel compassion and try to help others, but one also has to. Sometimes that's not so important. It seems it's more important to serve the spiritual master, because the spiritual master is compassionate, so our role is just service. So
I'm not catching the dilemma. I think the premise of your question is,
yes.
I got to catch it, and I haven't caught it.
So the question is that, can we, given that Krishna and the devotee are the most compassionate, is it more correct to think that I'm just a servant, or is it more important to develop the quality of compassion?
Okay.
That I need to be compassionate.
Okay. That's clear. In all circumstances in life, the reality is there's diversity, which is nice. It wouldn't be the same if everything was the same. So there's diversity. However, the giver of compassion is dependent upon having received compassion. You can't give what you don't have. So if you, the mood. I've been here. The Prabhupada's prayers on the Jaladuta say it all. I was just hearing a Bhagavad Gita class Prabhupada was giving in Los Angeles, 1969, and he was speaking the same message in a different way to his audience. So the same message in a different way is, on your question, we're meant to be the instrument. We are if we're properly aligned, we're the instrument of. So it's not our compassion, it's the giver of the one who we're serving. We're the servant, and there's the master. So we're distributing that. We're just emissaries or messengers or. The restless one is going downstairs. You're very familiar with that sound. Even in spontaneous devotion, one is the representative of or the carrier of. The position doesn't change. It's always the servant of the one who I'm serving. So to be the bestower of compassion, where did I get it from? I'm just the messenger. It seems to me that you can't leave that position, otherwise, you're in Maya. You're the messenger. You're the servant of in all circumstances. And forget that you're the servant of in any circumstance, and you're in Maya. You're the bestower of compassion. You're the messenger of the compassionate source. Whether it's disciplic succession, or ultimately Krishna, or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or Radharani, or whatever the representative of, not the giver of. Okay. I was hoping you'd have something to say. Here comes the microphone.
I was thinking about.
You got to press that little magic button.
There,
yeah, you're on.
I was thinking about Krishna's compassion. When Karna Muni, he did so much austerity for 10,000 years.
Yeah.
To get a wife.
To get a wife?
So, and Krishna shed tears, and from those tears, the Bindu Sarovar came, right? So even though he had a material desire, Krishna had so much compassion, So what to speak of somebody who has, a spiritual desire, more advanced desire, then one can. I was wondering if you can comment on that.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on the premise also. Yeah, the Karna Muni's desire, we can label it as material, but we can label it as service. And it depends on how you look at it. It's service that to be in a position, to be a parent, to be, for someone on the platform of Karna Muni doing austerities for as long as he did, what was the material desire left in him? Because he was fixed in the personality of Godhead. The personality of Godhead became a son. So, was it material or was it service? So I'm questioning examining the premise of your question. So something that starts being material can become free from material. That was in a starting position material. So They're followers, King Janak wanting a son. One could say it's material, but he's Janak. He's one of our 12 Mahajans. And so his wanting a son was not like everybody else wanting a son. One could say it's material. One could say it's transcendental to fulfill the purpose of the personality of Godhead. To have the Chatravyuhas as his sons. It's not material. You can't have that happen if you've got a material desire. So, my response, the premise of your question has got me a little, moving. And, the punchline of your question was, at what point does it become spiritual? What's your question? Punchline. Go ahead, microphone.
Yes, Maharaj. I agree with you, Maharaj, that actually it wasn't such a material desire. It was, it was a spiritual desire.
Okay, good.
I just wanted you to elaborate on that.
We have closure on that one. Now, there was a question in relation to the premise. What was the question? Is it answered?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay,
You
okay,
answered.
good, good. And last question. Right, look over your shoulder. There you go.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Slowly.
Sorry. Is there a difference between like nirvana, salvation, and free from birth and death, or all are same?
Oh, terminology. Well, so for those of you that are a little newer, nirvana means cessation. This is like a standard definition: cessation of material existence. Nirvana. Nir means not. Vana means forest. Out of the forest of material life, cessation of material existence. Nirvana. Nirvana. Negation. It's just negation. Cessation. So when you cease material existence, what's left depends on your disposition. If you're a Buddhist, it's nothingness. But if you're a Vaishnava, it's what's left is the heart's pure condition. Devotional service to He who is the source of everything, or that which is the source of everything. Connection with the source of everything. That's nirvana. So now, does that answer your question? No. Okay. What you want to know the likeness between nirvana and what's the other term?
Salvation.
Salvation. Well, different persons have different ideas of what salvation is also. So for some persons, salvation is go to heaven. Right? For some persons. And that's not, that's one definition. For them, that's salvation. You go to a nice place instead of a not nice place. And that's salvation. And then another is cessation of material existence. So material existence in heaven isn't ceased. It's just an upgrade of material existence. But it's material existence. So it's salvation in that sense is not the same as nirvana. And then there's gradations of nirvana. That salvation can mean liberation. It can mean not just go to heaven, but liberation where it's beyond heaven. And then there's different positions within the beyond heaven, or beyond material existence. So they're not synonymous, no. Okay, we're going to end. And who wants to... Premanand, do you want to say something to everybody about something, the coming attractions, or something you want them to do?
Festival of Holy Name.
Speak into the microphone, please.
Please start here. So, Festival of Holy Name is happening the 4th of July weekend. So all that information is there on our website and so many WhatsApp groups. We have sent it all, and kindly register as soon as possible so that she can make all the required arrangements, and we invite you all with all our heart to come and participate. And this has been very, very beneficial for all of us. So many years Maharaj has been consistently doing this service, and we have all benefited, and we invite you all. And if you have any questions, you can come and talk to me, or since Amritakali is not here, Satarupa is here, she will be able to answer as well.
Here's some good news, or some news at least. There's a plan to have public Harinam during the Festival of the Holy Name. Novel, huh? Public Harinam during the Festival of the Holy Name. So, there's details and details where we're going to go and how many should go, because there's going to be a lot of people, and what's a good number of people, and permits, and all kinds of nice things. But I think our participants will be very happy, and Lord Chaitanya will be very happy, and the public will probably be happy. As part of the Festival of the Holy Name. And probably some prasadam distribution. We'll see. Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai.